Wake up. It's time for Primal Scream.
Welcome back to the Primal Scream. I'm Matt.
I'm Todd.
And today is, it's June 1st.
Hey, good
June
job,
1st.
bud.
Well, I thought yesterday was June 1st, and I was telling everybody at the sweat that it was June 1st. We kind of have a unique, a different podcast today.
It is a good one. It's. I think it's awesome to once in a, again. We think it's kind of serendipitous. You know, we get these opportunities thrown to us. We're going to have Shannon Ram. We're going to have you and I are just going to have dinner with Shannon Ramsey
to talk to her about different
business things as this podcast and our production company kind of gets started. And we're going to pick her brain because she runs an extremely successful nonprofit called Trees Forever. And she said, "Well, actually, Kina, she's a woman from the Ojibwe Nation. She does sweat lodges. She said, Kina's coming. Do you want to say hi? Because I know Kina as well." And I said, "Sure." And so I said, "Well, hey,
how about,"
as I do with almost half my conversations now, "Hey, what do you think about maybe doing a podcast with her?" And she said, "Possibly, sure." And so I said, "Well, let's just bring our shit and we'll see what happens." And so it ended up being a really wonderful situation. So again, we got to go and interview her on Friday night, and we got to do a sweat lodge on Saturday last night.
Yeah, because you and I were confused. There was a misunderstanding somewhere, and because we both thought the sweat was Friday night, and we got there, and we had all of our gear, and what ended up happening was we ended up sitting on a picnic table. Really, we didn't have anything recording. We didn't have any cameras or nothing, and all of a sudden we found ourselves in this conversation. I'm like, well, Kina said, "So what would you like to talk about?" And I go, "Everything that you were just saying. Everything you were just saying was
this
gold."
Conversation, this hangout is what our podcast, we try to have it be like.
Right.
And so I think I grabbed a GoPro, and we got a little bit of footage from that little snippet of the table talk, but I'm not sure what the audio is going to be like for that. But
yeah, when I was listening to it earlier, it didn't seem terrible, so I might put it in like at the very end if you want to see the picnic table conversation, a little bit of that. Because that was really interesting. Because she goes over, she kind of restates. Then later on, we did set up
an actual interview.
Talk.
What's funny is that
the living room.
I even caught myself off guard a little bit because I've gotten in a mode now when we do podcasts, especially if we go somewhere else, we are getting good at just kind of knowing what we need to do. Microphone setups, cords going different places, lighting here and there, and kind of, using what we have to make the best thing possible. And then I sat back and I was like, oh shit. Shannon's living room looks like a freaking studio all of a sudden. I've spent so many years hanging out there, and Christmases in that same area, or playing with my kids in the same area, and all of a sudden, now it's a studio for a podcast with Kina. So that was kind of cool. And again, it always makes me feel good to see what we think is our little podcast is doing unique opportunities like that.
Yeah, just meeting different people.
Yeah, very cool. And
yeah, that conversation on the picnic table is really neat. And I was nervous. I did, for not everybody knows, I did a sweat 20 years ago. So when I was 19, I did a sweat lodge, and I received my Indian name at that moment.
And your Indian name is?
Elk runs hard.
Elk runs hard.
And
I always say it has a dual meaning, but I don't mean to belittle your name.
Yeah,
so
but thanks though. Thanks. So that was kind of I kind of felt like it was a brand new experience again Saturday, which we will talk about Saturday's experience.
It's a doozy.
Because just about everything happened that could happen.
It's one of those situations when you're standing there and you have the moment. In the moment realization of what's going on, that you're standing in a horrendous thunderstorm.
All right, stop. We can't get into this now. We got to talk about some current events first. Let's talk about some current events.
All right.
Let's timestamp this motherfucker.
Okay, so I think that the biggest current event right now, I am with you, is the Snowden thing, saying he was a spy in his interview with Brian Williams, who I love, by the way. I think Brian Williams is just like the best guy. He's so funny.
I think you like him because he plays well with Jon Stewart.
He plays well with Jon Stewart, Jimmy Fallon. He enjoys being around people. I think when I see people being genuine, that they genuinely like doing what they're doing, it just seems very truthful. And so I think he's a good face for the news. But knowing his backstory as this guy who just loves life and is funny and charismatic and cares about people and has charities and all these things, that makes him, bigger in my mind, that I appreciate him more than just being a talking head. That's why I like him.
Yeah. So I didn't get to, I only saw it really quickly, like a headline of it. I didn't actually watch the interview, none of that stuff, but just the headline alone, I wanted to bring it up because I didn't know if it was a true thing. I didn't know if there was really an interview, but you said you watched it. So
I watched snippets of it. I didn't watch the whole thing, and he definitely. I mean, it was a good.
So
interview.
He was a spy. Was he a spy?
Well,
or
he's
not?
saying he was a spy.
A spy for who?
For the United States.
What? He was in the CIA?
Well, he was he worked for the CIA.
I know, but all the reports kind of dumbed him down to where he was just.
I think that's the government and the media dumbing him down. Absolutely.
But that just makes them look worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
right.
dumbing the idea of dumbing him down makes everybody look at the CIA and go, so you let a high school graduate look at all our personal data? You fucks.
Well, I think part of it is, this goes back to government, period. It's so big. There's so much bureaucracy going that's always happening. I mean, I was the other day, I saw something on CBS Sunday Morning where somebody was standing in front of the Pentagon, right? In one entryway to the Pentagon. And I sat there for a second. I was like, I forgot, because I've been there before. I forgot. It's the biggest building in the world. And it is fucking enormous.
Pentagon is?
Oh my God, yeah. It's one of the biggest office buildings in the entire world. And it is just humongous. And you forget, I mean, you think it's full of offices with somebody working underneath somebody else under somebody else. And that's just one building in the Pentagon. You start talking about the CIA or the FBI and all these
NSA.
other, whatever, any branch of government to the point now is so big. And that's why I fall in line with some of the things Rock says or Ron Paul, where he says we've got to just simplify this stuff because there's so much. There's got to be waste inside there somewhere, and you start adding that waste up, and it's going to be a lot of money that we could be going towards something better.
Well, even under the best laid plans, the more people that has to hear a message from the upper echelons down to the low level executive or whatever, the man on the street, the spy. It's like the telephone game. You ever played the telephone game?
Yeah. No, it is.
My wife loves the telephone game with her family, and they always used to put like the smallest child, like the infant child, right next to her dad, who was really hard of hearing, so we always came up with great stuff. But that's probably, if not exactly, like the miscommunication and the shit that happens because our government is so huge.
Or did you get the memo? Did you get the memo about that? Or what if it's as simple as Snowden was a high school graduate, but was a smart computer kid, and he has a friend who works somewhere else who has a friend, and say, hey, listen, give this kid a shot. I think he's a good guy. He's good with computers. I think he'll work well for you. So you give somebody a shot. It could be just as simple as people being human beings around each other. And you hire somebody. And I don't think Snowden's a bad person. I think he's just fine. I wouldn't necessarily put him up on this hero pedestal everybody else does. Right. But I think he definitely could. He allowed himself he voiced his opinion and thought something was wrong and was able to do that. And I'm happy that he did. But it could be just as easy as somebody saying, hey, let's give this kid a shot. It's not like why would you hire some fucking high school graduate?
All right, I'm going to disagree with you on something.
Okay.
I would.
You are? That never happens.
I know it. I would put him on the hero pedestal a lot sooner than I would put victims of 9/11 on the hero pedestal. God, that fucking drives me crazy.
You said that before. Why is it? I mean,
it fucking drives me crazy because they're victims. They're not heroes. They didn't do anything heroic. They died. Some assholes blew up the buildings. The buildings came down. That's the simplest truth of it. How they came down, or why they blew up, or why they melted.
So it's a horrible thing that everybody died.
They're victims. Right. They're not heroics. They're not heroes at all.
Okay.
They're victims. And I feel bad for them, and I feel bad for their families. But I'm not going to put them on a pedestal. Snowden is still alive. It would be like you and I saying, okay, I'm going to do something, and it is going to change my life forever. I could continue doing the status quo I could continue just every day doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I see something that isn't right, but I'm just going to turn a blind eye to it because I don't want to get in trouble. Not only did he not want to would you and I not want to get in trouble, but he went on the run. He can't even live in the United States anymore.
Right.
I mean, his life is completely changed. And why? Because what did he say in the interview? That he found this out. It's wrong. And he wanted the American public to know what was going on.
I thought it was morally...
Okay, so that, to me, is the epitome of hero. Something's going wrong. You over there, you're being victimized. There's something fucking horrible that other people, these big fucking bullies, these big powerful people are doing to you.
And you don't know about it.
And you don't know about it, but I know about it. I'm gonna throw away my life. I'm going to throw away everything that I have right now, all my relationships, all my history here in the United States. I'm going to throw it all away just so that you all know. So that people that I don't know what's happening to them.
That's a compelling argument.
And I'm going to go fucking live in Russia.
Yeah.
That's not one of those places I'm like, yay. It's not like, okay, I sold out. I told a bunch of secrets and now I'm living in Hawaii.
Right.
Which I don't even know if Hawaii is that.
And that's
great.
that's a very good point. That the idea of he pretty much blew up his own life to inform everybody. Yeah, that's a good point. And we hear people talking about the idea of him having done state secrets or exposing things that he shouldn't have or put people's lives in danger. I don't know the ins and outs of everything that he put out there that were going to be, but I think it's easy for people to label him as being this person who release things that he shouldn't have that put soldiers in danger and things like that. And I just don't know enough about it.
Yeah, but you know what? That guy...
it's the same people
telling
who
the truth.
That
guy letting the truth out to everybody who's having the wool pulled over their eyes. If he put any soldiers in danger, do you think that compares at all? I mean, on the grand scale to what our president and our congressmen put our soldiers in harm's way because of whatever fucked up reason. Why are we still in Iraq? Hasn't that been, years ago?
I thought what are we down to in Iraq?
It doesn't matter. We're still there.
So
there's still a presence there. Is every single American soldier out? No. Are we still shelling out money for whatever over there? Yes.
Because even though they are pulling them out of Afghanistan, they're still going to leave 10,000 soldiers there. So we'll always have presences there. We always will.
We are an occupying nation. We occupy. That's what we are. We've become the United States empire.
Well, Jon Stewart, along with the thing you're talking about with soldiers and the war, Jon Stewart did a thing about this whole VA thing that's blowing up about people having to wait for years, wait to die. They died waiting to be seen by the VA. He jumped on it and talked about how horrible it was, but he's always preached about helping the soldiers out. And it's funny because it makes you almost assume that, wait a second, when we go to war, don't they have things in place that, okay, so we're going to go do these things. This is what usually happens in a war. People die and people get hurt badly.
Right.
What do we have in place to make sure we can just support these people when they come back? It's almost like we prepare for war and don't think about the backside at all. And I got that sense because he went back through every single war we've had. So he went back through Desert Storm, right, in the 90s, and he went back through Vietnam, Korea, World War II, World War I. He went all the way back almost to, I think, the Revolutionary War, and we've never taken care of our vets in the sense that we're here for you.
In the way that we've said we're going to.
Yeah. Yeah, he showed old footage of World War I vets marching on Washington and then breaking up with tanks and police because they marched on Washington because they didn't get any of their benefits that they were promised when going off to war, and that's World War I. You know what I mean? So it just goes to show for me that the government's never gonna. It's easy to jump to go to war, but it certainly is not prepared to take care of people afterwards. And if we hear excuses like, well, you can't really prepare for things like that, who would have known we would have less death and more injuries? Almost like, don't fucking talk to me about, well, we didn't know this, we couldn't know that. You probably should be planning as strategically and technologically advanced as we are. You should have everything fucking locked down before you're willing to say, yeah, you go over there and you take a chance to die or get killed or get maimed, excuse me.
Has there been one generation, has there been 100 years where there hasn't been a war?
I don't know. That we haven't been involved in, you mean?
Yeah. Have we ever been a peaceful nation? Have we ever sat back and just produced our own goods and took care of our own and just focused on the United States and said, "Hey, we're the fucking best"? No.
Like that guy. I forget that gentleman who was speaking on Bill Maher the other night, saying we have 11 aircraft carriers and we're looking to build a 12th. And the closest country behind us has zero. Nobody can. I mean, you can. They're floating cities with enough missiles and air power, helicopters and planes to almost handle their own war by themselves, in a sense. And we have 11 of them. It just makes me feel that we're almost like a fear-based kind of society in most ways, because we're always prepping for the worst. It makes you wonder: is it because we don't make the best choices in the world?
Dude, we are District 1. We're District 1 of the Hunger Games.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, the United States. I feel like, we don't do something as silly as
why does it sound like we're hating so bad right now?
We're hating. Well,
I think it's
one of the things that was brought up this weekend that surprised me and surprised you. Was what's the government agency that looks over Indian affairs?
The Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Oh, okay. The Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Pretty simple.
And we were told that, I had made the comment, I had told Keena that I wanted to be a little bit more familiar about sweat lodges. And so I looked it up on YouTube, because you can see everything on YouTube. You want to learn something? Go to YouTube.
And I'm still in the mindset too that if I'm not sure how to do something, I sit there and I start going, okay, maybe I go to the library and there's like an owner's manual, and I'm still in that generation that's not so driven by Google that I'm like, oh, I'll just go to YouTube and see how it's done.
Yeah,
I keep forgetting that part.
Somebody's going to show me how to do it. Well, anyway, so I looked it up on YouTube, and all of the sweat lodges were circa 1980. Early 80s. Late 70s, and I didn't enjoy watching them very much.
Probably because they have a big camcorder on somebody's shoulder.
There's a couple of guys in Speedos, and it just was like, oh. I really, now this is a joke. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to downgrade this, but it really, my wife and I used to watch HBO Real Sex.
Oh yeah, it's a good show.
And every now and then, they would have different specials on Real Sex, and I think one special was sex communes or these little clubs where guys would get together, and it's like there's one big wooden penis, and everybody's walking around naked, and we're like, why the fuck are we watching this again? But it was interesting. And
those old YouTube videos reminded you of that?
So the old YouTube videos, I was like, it's a little. At one point, someone's gonna reach over and start macking on somebody else. It was a little disturbing, but so I brought that up to Keena, not the HBO Real Sex thing,
but not being able to see anything on Inipi ceremonies or sweat lodges.
Right, there was nothing current, so I brought that up to her, and she had stated that the Bureau of Indian Affairs had made it illegal. Now,
illegal to pray. Illegal to.
That's what I wanted to say. Sorry. Wrap your minds around this, everybody. We have this idea that we are free.
Americans, yeah.
Americans are free, and one of our pillars that we stand on all the time, that we tout to everybody, is that we have freedom of religion. Mm-hmm. And if you have a religious practice, you can do basically whatever you want within that religion, because we are going to honor it.
Right.
And the American government was putting... The fine was like $10,000 or 10 years in jail.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% on that. It was roughly that, though. So to think that the Native American Indians, the people that we came here and screwed over,
right?
And we did. And if you're listening to this or watching this podcast and you think, no, man, we didn't do that. We bought that shit and they're savages. Fuck you. Just get off my YouTube channel, because I don't want you to watch this shit anymore. You're a dick.
Well, the hard part is that it's so. I am not surprised that it was a fine for $10,000, because this is
why?
No, this is old. This is old stuff from when we were being founded as a country. We came over with the idea of religious freedom, but we still thought that our idea of religious freedom was the best one.
Right.
And so then we had to teach these poor people who had no God,
right, these
how to be godly. And so that just progressed through, a couple hundred years, even to the point where in the last 30, it only changed from us saying, "Hey, listen, it's so nice you have this cute little religion that's based on the earth. That's wonderful. But if you really want to be saved and go to heaven, you have to do it this way. So we're going to take your kids away from you and put them in schools. We're going to cut their hair. You can't do any more ceremonies. You can't do ghost dance. You can't do anything. You can't do vision quests." It's left over from an old era.
It's another example of how Christianity.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all Christians today are like this. I'm saying the roots of Christianity.
Yeah.
It's another example of how somebody twisted it and they ruined people's lives in the name of Jesus.
Well, the hard part is
they did it wrong.
But see, it's still very. If you are a born again Christian right now, you have to be witnessing to people. If you're not witnessing to people and telling them about the promise of Christ, you're not doing your job. So there's still a big part of that's still going on today. That it's hard for me to wrap my head around because it leads to things like us saying, "Mine's the right way." I'm sorry you don't believe that, but mine's the right way. And you get to the point where I'm willing to take away your kids because, listen, I know you think you know what you're doing, but I have Jesus on my side. He says I need to take your kids and put them in the school to show them how to be this way.
Think about, that's another thing. To take a moment and think about this. How would you feel? What would you be thinking if some government agency came to your home and took your kids?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you there might have been one or two. But for the most part, I doubt there was any fucking family that was like, "What are you doing? This is my children," and I would have lost my mind.
Exactly.
And if you want to bring it to real today terms, I would have been an insurgent. I would have been a terrorist. You can't just come in and take my children. They don't belong to you. They belong to me. I've raised them. I love them. They're a part of me. And to rip children away. And
under the guise of religion and love
makes me fucking sick.
Yeah, it's
makes me really, really angry and disappointed because growing up, you have this really flowery, patriotic view of the United States and how great we are.
But it can be. It's not a bad idea. It can be,
but there are some definite things that we need to be aware of, and it still could be.
Yeah,
but there's definite things that we need to be aware of. And things just as recently as early 70s, late 60s, where this fine was, you couldn't practice your religion. You couldn't even have a sweat lodge. You couldn't sit down and pray or meditate to whoever you believe in. And they would fine you or throw you in jail. What fucking right does anybody... What right do I have to tell you what to do?
Or imagine if we said, churches are illegal, so I go into somebody's church and pull them out of the pews and put them in jail. I mean, that's what it is.
That's what it is.
A sweat lodge is a ceremony where people are together in fellowship together. It's very much religious-like in its kind of form the way it is. And so I think that people need to put it in a frame that they can understand. Well, it's like when I've heard people talk about Native American things in the past. I had a teacher say to me, when they would go in and kill people in a village, they wouldn't waste bullets on children. You have boot heels for children. Bullets take down adults, women, and men. Boot heels are for children. So, you have to, and so then you have to stop. And he said, now imagine that was your little brother. Imagine that's your little sister. And so when you just put in frames of mind like that, it makes you go, okay, now it's relatable. So I think it's important to say, okay, imagine if somebody were to walk into your church and pull you out of the pew and say, I'm sorry, this is illegal. We're taking you to jail. We're going to fine you $10,000. That's what it's like. That's how you can frame it into a way of to make us wrap our heads around.
Well, the simplest thing is that it's one of the best sayings ever is do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Golden rule.
The golden rule.
Yep.
And it is really a golden rule because take any situation that we are involved in. Okay? Think of Iraq. Think of Afghanistan. Think of what we did to the Native American Indians. And if you could honestly put yourself in the other person's shoes and say, hey, I had no dealings with Saddam Hussein. I didn't know whoever that you've come to wage war on. I just live here. I work, I grow food, I feed my family who I love, and you just bomb my fucking village. Hey, man, all I do is go work at the local factory here in Iowa. All I do is pay bills, get groceries, take my kids to school, and love them. And you just bombed Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and killed 98% of all the people I love.
Yeah.
So if you can honestly switch, if you can flip the script, and you still think, yeah, let's fucking do it 100%, you might need some therapy.
Well, you just have to stop and think, and think for yourself. I think America's an incredible, wonderful place, to be honest. I do think we do some things wrong, but I think we do a lot of things right. But it's okay to disagree. Dissent is one of those things that's key to our republic.
Yeah, there's definitely gonna be comments that are like, if you don't fucking like it, move.
Yeah, love it or leave it, man. Love it or leave it.
I do love my environment. I do love where I live, and I enjoy the fruits of my labor. It's definite freedoms that I have here that I don't think other people have in other parts of the world. But I'm not a big traveler. I haven't seen every little part of the world. I don't really know. All I really know.
We may someday. We may someday see lots of little parts of the world.
Todd has this dream. Should we talk about this a little bit?
Let's talk about the
dream.
It's good to put your dreams out there so people can crush them with their little minds.
Pragmatism and logic.
First, I was going to say, before you tell the dream, I was going to tell you that the House banned the DEA from attacking medical marijuana locations. So the House of Representatives...
Oh, just recently?
Banned the department.
When was that?
I think it was like Thursday.
So if you have them...
Because California was still being raided by the DEA, even though they were a licensed medical marijuana dealer, they were still getting raided. And Obama was the one who was really promoting that. So it stopped, supposedly.
So if that has passed... and a medical marijuana joint, people bust into it and say, all right, we have a warrant. We're going to take all your pot. We're going to take all your money, and we'll see you you'll hear from us. Are you supposed to just let somebody steal from you like that? Or, as an owner, would you shoot the motherfucker who came through with a piece of paper in his hand? Because, hey, I just found out that's illegal. You guys can't do this. You're stealing from me. And I... like Florida, I'm standing my ground, and you're not going to steal from me. Because that's kind of the conspiracy, is that the DEA is raiding these medical marijuana joints, taking the marijuana, taking all the money, and then the owners, they never hear from them again.
Right. Yeah, it'll be
some shady shit.
Well, and see, the House is controlled by Republicans, so that's why it was kind of people are kind of caught off guard. Yeah.
Okay, so... that's cool, and I'm glad that happened.
You want to tell the dream? Go ahead, do the dream.
Well, I'll begin it, and then you can tell me why you can explain to everybody why you think we could do this.
All
right. So Todd comes up to me and he said, "Hey, man, I got a great idea. Let's go
5-year anniversary.
5-year anniversary. 5-year anniversary. We're gonna trip around the world. We're gonna do a trip around the world on motorcycles."
And I got the idea from Ewan McGregor. Let's put that out there.
Ewan McGregor, yeah. What's the website?
The Long Way Around.
The Long Way Around, and it's a really neat website. I brought it up and watched some videos.
And he did it as a almost like a / documentary. Had a production team following him, but he and a buddy didn't race, but drove BMWs all the way around the world. They've done it twice now too. So.
Oh, really?
Well, they went from New York to London, and then I think they went from.
Or did they start in London and ended up in New York?
No, I think it's New York. They're from London, so they started in New York and went to London, and then I think they went from Scotland, which is I think where he's actually from, all the way to the tip of Africa, and they went through like Libya, Egypt. And I was like, oh, I don't think I'd take that trip right now. But go ahead.
Yeah, and here's the big difference. This is something about Todd. Todd has these wonderful ideas that I really dig, and I think they're great. But then when you start looking at the logistics of it, and if you want to be realistic about it, Ewan McGregor had a lot of people with him, and Todd's talking about just him and me. It's just him and me.
Imagine you and I in the middle of Siberia, putting a podcast out with our little plug-in on the side of our computer to hook up with the satellite's Wi-Fi, and we're in the middle of fucking nowhere. doing a podcast.
Listen, I'm not saying I'm not down with it, but we're going to take baby steps.
I said 5 years.
Yeah,
that's 4 years away.
That's the 5-year plan.
That's 4 years and 4 months away.
Jesus, he's really accurate right now. So this is Matt's progressional stair stepping to that 5-year goal.
Awesome too.
So next summer we're going to road trip it for 2 weeks. Just Todd and I. Yeah, we're not going to have a production crew.
Nope. We are the production crew.
We are the production crew.
Yep.
So we're going to tour the United States a little bit. We're going to take 2 weeks and see how it goes and baby step it from there. Maybe the next year we'll do 4 weeks.
Something else.
Maybe we'll hit a different part of the United States, or maybe we will do Canada or South America or something. Who knows? Maybe we'll get a little bit more ballsy. Maybe we'll get a hold of the guys from Vice and be like, hey, can we go with you? Can you show us the ropes?
I don't know if I could do that. I watched some of those Vice shows, and I'm like, these guys are really
balls
just
that clank and spark.
Well, they are. It's really guerrilla journalism. I mean, they're doing things that people used to do way back in the day and really put themselves in danger. That one, I think it was Shane Smith, who's driving through, and they're like, yeah, that turd over there, that's Taliban. That's Taliban. And they're following their thing with their guns as they drive by. I was like, any guy could just be like, "Oh, I don't like them," and that'd be it. You know, it's just scary as shit. I think, their balls clank and spark. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah,
love it.
I'm so impressed by those guys.
Me too.
Totally
and impressed. They do good journalism. It's not that it's just they go in dangerous places. They talk to everybody. They get every side of the story. It's pretty impressive. Vice is awesome. I'm just surprised that I'm disappointed that I haven't heard of them before. I didn't hear about them until Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
Joe Rogan, and I think Bill Maher now produces their HBO half-hour show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but then you see in the beginning of the half-hour show, they do this little snippet of like the intro, and they have a wall in their office that's like 20 feet tall and 50 feet wide, and it's nothing but the covers of their magazines over the years. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, they've been around forever.
How did I not know about you guys?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. All right, so we talked about Snowden and even if you don't necessarily agree with what he did, the actions in which he did them in were heroic. They were super ballsy. He gave up his life. And ask yourself if you could do the same. Ask yourself if you could step up for somebody who's being victimized.
Because the unfortunate part is that the government, in a lot of aspects, is sketchy and shady.
Secretive.
Yeah,
non-transparent.
If it was different, if we saw a lot more sunlight put on things, I think we would all feel a little bit differently. And that's probably one of my absolute biggest disappointments in Obama, because that's one of the
that was a huge
transparency was a huge thing. And I realize that you get into office and maybe you find out shit that you didn't know about before, and you can't do some of the things you want to do. But this makes it just that much worse, especially when you find out they're spying on Americans. And everybody keeps getting on saying, "Oh, it's just metadata, and it's just this, and it's just this." I'm just like, but it shouldn't even be happening. It's a slippery slope. The minute you say, "Oh, you know what? This guy might be a terrorist. He might hurt somebody. We're gonna take our chances and just watch this one guy," you're already sliding down the slope.
And you know what? And now I can say it because the Winter Soldier has been out for a little while now. But that's the epitome of that movie. Is Captain America says to Nick Fury, you're holding a gun to the world's head. Oh,
those big warships that he was building.
Yeah, those huge warships. Gotcha. Okay. And he's like, I thought we prosecute people after they committed a crime. We don't prosecute people before.
Right.
And you're saying you can have freedom as long as you fear us. So that is even though it was a fictional movie, it really rings true. Yeah.
And then so Captain America's almost like battling his own country.
Well, he's battling with the ideas of what have we become.
Right.
And spoiler alert. So that means if you don't want to hear, fucking mute it. They take down S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
So they try to take down Hydra, which, I don't know, maybe the equivalent of Taliban. I don't know. Just whoever hates America. Yeah. A leading power. And they also take down S.H.I.E.L.D. because they're like, listen, you can't have something as powerful as this because it can be corrupted. And once that's corrupted, we're fucked.
Right.
So we can't do this. So anyway, great movie. That's it. So we talked about Snowden. We talked about yeah, I didn't know about the whole marijuana thing and the House passing that. That's great. I think that's really a wonderful
anniversary
thing.
of Tiananmen Square was this
really,
weekend.
Tiananmen Square.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why I remember that, I graduated in '89, and that's when it happened. It was '89.
I think that's when we had. Isn't '89 about the time where we started introducing televisions into the classrooms, and we were having Channel 1?
Oh, Channel 1 is something that was kind of new, but we had TVs in our school. I mean, I remember watching.
Like we had a TV in each classroom, and at the beginning of the morning they would
do a little thingy on there.
Yeah.
Maybe that was in your school. Absolutely. We watched the shuttle blow up when I was a freshman. Because we were in science class, and he wanted us all to watch the shuttle being launched. So
boom.
He rolled in a thing, and yeah, it was horrible.
I'm not saying that TVs didn't exist.
No, in the classroom. I know what you meant.
Okay, they were a permanent feature, and you would see that. Okay, so yeah, we talked about that. All right, are we ready to go? Should we play? You guys ready for the interview with
Kina?
Kina, and she's gonna say her whole name, and when you see my reaction to that, maybe you'll understand why.
And I had a coughing fit because
Todd had
Matt made a face as I was listening to her name, and I love hearing native languages.
I wasn't ready for it.
Native languages to me are really a beautiful, smooth language that I like a lot. And so when she's saying it, I'm listening to her, and I look over at you and the face you made. I coughed up half my water that I was drinking.
And I didn't do it out of disrespect.
No,
it was a beautiful. Just
caught
name.
you off guard.
It really just caught me off guard.
Yeah.
It's like having. I really want to say something right now, but I think it would be too much.
Too much. If you think it's too much and too far, you probably need to hold your tongue.
I don't want Kina to watch it and go. Oh.
We've already said the F word like 10 times. That's going to drive her crazy already. So
okay,
it's a done deal. So if you need to hold back because we've been swearing a lot.
All
and
right. I'm holding back for you, Kina, because right now there's a really funny thing that I could say, which would. Anyway. Here's the interview with Kina. I hope you guys all enjoy. After the interview, we'll be back and we'll talk a little bit about our Sweat Lodge experience.
Yeah, enjoy, guys.
Enjoy.
Okay,
and then that's good. All right. So you wanted to know
why you're looking for this information regarding our ceremonies.
Well, to be honest, a lot of it is happenstance. It all kind of came together, and it's interesting to me. 20 years ago, I did my very first and only Sweat Lodge, and it's almost serendipitous that this is happening when it's happening, and we're able to come here and do this because recently in the news, YouTube, videos everywhere, there's a lot of violence. People are getting so pulled away from nature and a homeostatic balance with nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it's because we're not more attuned to what you were talking about earlier with spirits and the universe and things like that.
Well, I think people have lost the magic of life. Life is very magical. You know, when I was a child growing up, my dad would drive in the driveway, and he'd say, "Oh, Uncle Red was here." And I'd think, how does he know Uncle Red was here with his family? You know, how did he know that? And we lived that magic as children. And we didn't have toys. We had a radio, and the only thing we listened to was Nashville once a week. And we had to be really quiet so my dad didn't miss it. I think people are losing that magic of life. The magic you get from being, I don't know.
Would it be like being present in the moment?
Yeah.
And being like of the world and in the world?
We're taught to be resourceful as children. We didn't have toys. We had ropes over the river. You know, we played Tarzan. We didn't have toys. We didn't have bikes. We didn't have nothing like that. But we had magic. We'd go in a neighbor's field, and we'd make, out of that twine, we'd make harnesses, and we'd ride horses all day. We'd go in the river, swim. We were free. People were free. Today, people can't be free. You got to obey this. You got to obey that. You know, you can't climb a tree. You might fall down, get hurt. You just isolate yourself from life. And they all live in a box like we're sitting in right now. And they sit and they go like this with their machines. And I think that those machines are what's ruining our children, causing all the violence. Because when they're sitting there watching, shooting people, getting this one, getting that one, getting all these points, it's desensitizing them to life. You know, they have no value of life. And it all boils down to losing the magic. You know, simple things. In the wintertime, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have a refrigerator and things. In the wintertime, we get Jell-O. You know, that was a big treat for us. And we'd make horses out of snow and ice. We'd form horses, then we'd throw water on them. Next day we'd come out, we'd put some on. And we'd jump and ride them horses in the yard. You know, we made tree houses, we dug tunnels. We had a ball. We'd get up in the morning, Mom and Dad still sleeping, we'd go to the mulberry tree, climb that tree, and we just were all purple with mulberries. You know, we'd eat strawberries, we'd eat whatever we could get, because we'd leave in the morning and wouldn't come home till night, because we were busy living life as children. We weren't restricted, we weren't worried about perverts. We were free. You know?
You didn't live a life of fear. And a lot of people who listen to this podcast and watch it, and a lot of people that I work with, they have no recollection of what life was like pre-9/11. They have no idea what it was like back in the 80s, what it was like back in the 70s, what television was like. Being able to honestly say, I mean, it's almost one of those things that kids, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds think is almost a joke. Like when a parent were to say, I walked uphill to school both ways, back and forth, up ways, 10 foot of snow. They're like, oh, come on. Mm-hmm. Hey, pre-9/11, we did this. Our parents would tell us, leave in the summertime, get outside. I don't want to see you back inside till the sun goes down. That was like, really? That's not a joke, you know? Like we were outside enjoying nature and life.
You could ride your bikes and you could visit your friends. You didn't have a cell phone stuck up your face all day.
You almost said something.
Right. You didn't have a cell phone here, you know, and people don't even know how to talk anymore. They don't know how to write letters. They're changing the language. LOL. You know.
See, and my kids make fun of me when I text. I use commas, apostrophes. Right. I hate the fact that
you write the word.
You probably make fun of some of my texts are long because I hate the idea of shortening the English language or shortening things. It bugs me.
Well, I mean, it's in bad enough shape. Right. You know, and where's it going to stop? We have to get back to nature, you know. And, you know, I've been doing this for years and years and years, and I've done it with my children. I bought a farm because I wanted my kids to know all these animals. I wanted them to know about living life. I didn't buy my kids new toys. I had 4 boys at home. I bought a $35 junk car, a Buick, put it in the yard, bought them tools. They worked on them cars. They got that doggone thing running. My brother'd help them here and there. They'd work on it. All the neighborhood kids were in my yard. They were all greasy. There was grease all over. And I'd make a big pot of soup, and I'd make those 10 cents a can biscuits, put hamburger in them, and make little meat pies with their soup. And they worked on those cars, on that car. All my kids make a living working on cars.
Go ahead.
Hey, and since you are here and you're listening to this awesome story, I'm Matt.
I am Todd.
And
I'm Ojibwe Nangba Mateo Ikwe. In my plan.
God bless you. God bless you.
Stop.
Are you all right? Are you all right? Was it the way I looked at her when she said that? I wasn't ready for her to say her name. I wasn't ready for the whole name.
What were you ready for?
I was ready.
Peanut?
I was ready for that. When you did the whole thing, I got a bewildered look on my. Is that what made you choke?
Yeah.
Hey, where's my tea? Can I have my tea?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. No, my name is Ojibwe. That's Yellow Cloud.
Yellow Cloud.
Anangba Mateoikwe, Star Walker, woman. And both those names were given to me a long time ago. And Megazed, the eagle, is my clan. And I'm from the Ojibwe nation. My mother was Northern Cree, Ojibwe, they call them. Ojibwe and Cree, and my father was Ojibwe.
So we're part of the same clan. I'm part of the Eagle clan too.
Yeah. So
That's
we're
nice.
related. We're brother and sister.
Beautiful.
And so you, Todd, you have you were named, correct?
Yeah, Shannon Ramsey in the ceremony.
She's a pretty neat lady.
She is neat. We'll have her on the podcast eventually.
Someday.
She needs to be on.
She's
Yeah,
busy.
she named me Eagle Heart. And
Whoa.
it really caught me off guard.
I guess so.
But it really
It's beautiful.
it's a beautiful name. I feel very honored to have that.
And being here earlier now, again, for everybody who just started listening or watching, we're here at Shannon Ramsey's property. We're going to be doing. I thought we were going to be doing a sweat lodge tonight. I was so psyched. I was going to get it all sweaty. But what turned out was we're prepping tonight. We're going to do a sweat lodge tomorrow night. I'm going to be here. Todd's going to be here.
I'll be here.
And we got to meet just really fascinating people. And earlier we were having a conversation about how Todd had a 3-generational sweat lodge. And let's just act like nobody's ever even heard of sweat lodges. What's a sweat lodge? Can you describe what a sweat means to you or what it is?
Its purpose.
The purpose, and kind of take us through a normal sweat lodge. Or
Is there a normal sweat lodge? Every sweat lodge is different.
okay.
You know, to me, the sweat lodge is the most sacred ceremony. Because to me, we go in there and we put the medicines, we bring them hot grandfathers in, we put the medicines on there. And, you know, our goal is to cleanse ourselves and to pray. Now, the first round, we pray for all of nature. We pray for the fish, the four-leggeds. We pray for the standing people, the tree people. We pray for everything in life. We pray for the creepy crawlies. We pray for the medicines. And as we're doing that, I'm singing the Creator song and the Turtle song. And then on the second round, we sing the Eagle song, and I blow the eagle whistle 4 times, and we pray for ourselves. Because we can't do anything unless we're healthy, right? We have to be strong and healthy in mind, body, and spirit to be able to do anything to help anyone else or raise a family or go to work, you know. We have to be strong. So we pray for ourselves. When we do that, I sing the buffalo song and the eagle song, the buffalo song, and the bear song. And then we open the door. And then we bring in some more grandfathers and we sing, you know. We talk. That's where we do a little sharing circle. And we give thanks for the people helping us and everything. And then when we close the door again, we pray for our family, our community, and our friends who need prayers. And I ask people, say their name out loud in the sweat lodge. If you know someone struggling with health issues, things like that. Say their name out loud, and I sing, you know, a couple songs. And then we're putting medicine water on the grandfathers, and I pass medicine water for everyone to drink. And the medicine water is made from sweetgrass, cedar, sage, and bear root.
So it's like a tea?
It's like a tea.
Okay.
And it helps us to detox and sweat. And it also helps us to open our mind to the spirits in the lodge. Because they do come in. The spirits come in and look at us. You know, I could sit here for 10 years and tell you stories. But basically, that's a sweat lodge. And then when we're done, we sing the releasing song. And the spirits leave. Sometimes they don't let me remember that. I have to sit and drum for a while because they don't want to leave yet, you know. They want to stay longer with us. But some of the people can't take it, so. But we just sit there, and it's just a beautiful experience now. I come out first, right? And I sit there, and I watch the participants come out. And they're all wet and pink. And they have a glow about them. They've seen magic. They've seen spirit. They're connected with that now. And to me, what more could you give somebody? What more could you give them?
I love that explanation. You know, you're going to say somebody?
I was going to say, at what point, at what age did you find yourself being connected in a way that people were drawn to you to do to do sweat lodges, to do medicine ceremonies, things like that?
Well, I've kind of always been a little weird, different, but I never really started doing sweat lodges and ceremonies and things until my children were grown.
What do you mean weird and different? How are you weird or different?
Well, to most people don't understand our ceremonies, and they think it's, why would you crawl into a black place, bring in all these rocks and they're red hot, and you throw water on it and you sweat? Why would you do that? To them, people think, you know, that sounds kind of weird. But when you see those faces coming out of that sweat lodge, and they're just wet and pink, and they're like newborn babies. And that's the beauty. Because they've touched spirit, spirit touched them. And that brings them back. And I think our children need this, you know, more than air.
Do you think there's quite a few shows that I listen to or watch, and a resounding theme for any type of mystical or spiritual journey or an awakening, they have visions. And with those visions, there's always a type of discomfort that someone has to go through. Very popular one in the news and stories lately is the Joe Rogan talks about it down in Peru.
Ayahuasca.
Taking the ayahuasca drug.
Which is very similar to peyote.
Do you feel like the sweat lodge is one of those things that you have to put your body into an uncomfortable position? It's almost like a deprivation tank. You don't see any light. You don't see your hand in front of your face. The one I was in was extremely dark. I couldn't see anything. You're just rivers of sweat coming down. You kind of lose track of time and space. You know, you have no idea have I been in there for 5 minutes or have I been in here for an hour. Was mine. I mean, for people who have done this more than once, maybe they're like, okay, we're getting towards the end here. I kind of know the ritual here. But because of that discomfort and taking your physical body to a level that you're not normally accustomed to, because so many of the younger generation, even myself, I'm busy on my phone playing a game, waiting for my kid to get done with practice or something like that. Do you think that's a necessary thing? That
No,
reaching
not at
a
all.
level of discomfort to have a vision, to be moved?
Not at all. I have a grandmother lodge. I have a star lodge, you know.
And what does that mean?
To me, it means that, you know, we all suffer in life. When you go in to pray to our Creator, I make it as comfortable as you can. I don't sit. I sit on Mother Earth, but I don't. I put a quilt there. You're sitting on something. I do mainly women. But, you know, I get a lot of men, strong men you see down here. Tough guys, and they come in that lodge, and they're humbled by that lodge. I don't think you have to suffer to communicate and to be in the presence with our Creator or our ancestors. No, I don't think we have to suffer. We suffer enough in life. We get up in the morning, we go to work, we take care of our family. I mean, there's enough in life for us to suffer with. I think when you go into the ceremony, you should be comfortable. A lot of people don't feel that way about it. A lot of people feel you should be uncomfortable, but that's not my teaching. My teachings come from grandmothers, ancient grandmother spirits that communicate with me. And I do what they tell me to do.
No.
And through me, the grandmothers have healed people. It's not me, it's the grandmothers that work through me.
There was a couple of things that we talked about earlier when we were just hanging out up here before we had the cameras and the microphones and everything that I wanted to touch on. One, you talked about grandfathers. So I wanted to get into that a little bit more so that people who were listening earlier and you had said, well, we bring in the grandfathers. That's not a normal phrase so that people understand what you were talking about. You were talking about the stones that are basically soaked in the fire.
Mm-hmm. They're red hot.
They're red hot. And,
hopefully.
And you
get them red hot. You bring them into the lodge.
Well, right. But
they're Mishomases and Nokomases. They're grandmothers and grandfathers. We're told they've been on Earth since, for very thousands and thousands of years. They've accumulated a lot, and we're taught that they're a very patient spirit. They do have a spirit. Everything in life has a spirit and a purpose. And we're taught that when those grandfathers come into the sweat lodge, we honor them with medicine. We sprinkle them with cedar. And we say, Bonjour, Mishomas, Nokomas, grandfathers and grandmas. We welcome them in there. And they, the teaching is that when those grandfathers and grandmothers come in that sweat lodge after being here thousands of years, maybe sitting in one spot, their spirit is released in that lodge. So they want to come into the sweat lodge, and not enough people are doing them today, because they'll share with us what they've learned. People today think it's even like, let's talk about UFOs. People think Earth belongs to us. Earth does not belong to us. Earth belongs to a universe. We have to broaden our mind. If we hurt the Earth with, say, nuclear energy or these GMOs and what they're doing to our foods, what they're doing to the people, what they did to the eagles years ago, spraying the weeds on the ditches. Some of the things, people think this earth belongs to us. It does not belong to us. We're part of a universe. And you say, if a nuclear weapon goes off here, those people, and they are people, and they're related to us, and they've been here, and I'm sure people know by now, since time began. Our people call them our relatives. We've always known about aliens and UFOs. But people gotta lose that concept that you own anything here. You don't own anything here. You're borrowing it. So we gotta learn about respecting the things that we have and the things that we use. It's all right to have a nice, beautiful home, and it's all right to have a nice car, but you don't need 5 cars. You know, you got to learn to respect Earth and respect the things here. So I don't know why I went off on that, but I just think that, you know, people misconceive things. How could we ever believe Earth belongs to us? When it's part of a whole universe, we can't even conceive. You know what I'm saying?
And do you think there is a spiritual, I hate to say religious piece that's missing from people that connects them to something? I mean, atheism or agnostic kind of way of thinking is picking up speed where people don't believe in anything at all. It's just, we're just here for now, and when we're gone, and that's the end of the story. They don't have much more, involved in that. I know people who are going to listen to this and think, what's different than your way of thinking than believing in something imaginary like a Christian God or a Jesus, something like that. So do you think there's a disconnect that way?
Trust me, I believe in Jesus. We talked earlier.
Yeah, you're right.
And he came to me when I was going through a hard time and a struggle. And he didn't talk to me. He just held his hands out to me. And to finish the story we were talking about this afternoon was when he was filling me with love on the inside, and it was coming out my pores. I couldn't even describe the feeling. It was so strange, so overwhelming. There's no words to describe being filled with pure love. It was coming out my pores. So, I believe in the spiritual way of life. I think everything we do is connecting to our spiritual way of life. Is in the Sweat Lodge, that's the whole concept.
Right.
To connect with our spiritual ancestors, to help us, to keep us strong, to give us guidance. Where do we go next? What do we do next? Help us. We're weak. We're all weak.
Now, would you be surprised if people watch this video, this podcast, listen to it, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, I'm out. Here's this lady. She's talking about Native American stuff, sweat lodges, woohoo."
Jesus was thrown in there somehow.
How did she throw Jesus into this Native American thing? He's over there. He's on the other side of the world.
Yep.
No,
And she can't just take our guy. Well, I mean, what there's going to be people that are going to hear this,
right,
that are not going to understand where you're coming from. When you said it earlier, I've had negative situations with religion growing up, and I've kind of checked out of that way of thinking. I'm spiritual, but not religious.
Well, I'm spiritual.
Yeah.
And
so
what did Jesus
you
ever teach?
I like this.
What did he ever teach?
Love and acceptance.
There, you got it in a nutshell.
I was really hoping that was right.
13 and 33, where was Jesus? You think he only worked with his people or you, or he worked with us? He gave us our teachings. He's universal. You can't limit him. There's only one God.
See, that's going to just blow everybody's minds.
Well, who cares?
All these Christian people.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
No, it's a good thing.
Good thing.
There's a lot of Christian people out there that are like, nope, he's our guy. I wear his jersey. He's playing for my team, not your team. And how dare you say what was he doing?
Well, that's just like
this time and that time.
We own the earth. How audacious is that? We own Earth. It don't belong to the universe. It belongs to us. No, we don't own Earth. I mean, what are you saying? You can't claim God.
Right. So how do you reconcile? How do you view?
I just say,
your
come on.
spiritual, the overwhelming spiritual thing.
Come to the Sweat Lodge. Come to the ceremony. And if you don't feel a connection to it, then you can call me crack, you can call me stupid, you can call me anything you want. That don't matter to me. You have to experience, and why I talk about this? Why would I talk about this, And I don't want to be anything. I'm just a woman who's raised a family, who's worked all her life. I'm nothing special. But I feel this importance of the children need to be introduced to the spiritual way of life. Christianity has took us down a lot of roads, and I can't say I'm Christian, but I can say I'm spiritual. And I seen Jesus. He's a part of our life. There's only one God for all of us. And all he talked about was love. He didn't talk about go to church on Sunday, all this stuff. You should be in church every day. When I get up in the morning, I'm grateful for I woke up. I'm grateful to do dishes. I had food to eat, feed my family. I'm grateful to clean my house. I have a home. You have to learn to be grateful for things. That's all. Take care of it. Do your business.
I think that's a bigger issue than people probably think about. I think being happy with the things you have is really difficult for people.
Right. I mean, look at the kid that just had the shooting. San Diego, was it?
Mm-hmm.
In California?
Santa Barbara.
I'm sorry, Santa Barbara. Puts out a YouTube. He puts out a video. Anybody can. Look at us. We do it. So anybody can put out a video. He puts out a video, which, silver lining here. Thank God he put out a video. How many times does somebody do something just terrible and everybody wonders, why did he do it?
Right.
Why did that person do that? Why did she do this? Well, he put out a video. There's no questions. But here's a kid who seemed to have had almost anything you want. Wasn't he driving a BMW?
Right.
Pretty well.
Seemed like a handsome fella.
Handsome boy.
But that's one of those things that's serendipitous.
But what did he do?
He's like empty. He seems to be
He
empty.
sat at home isolated, playing on that machine for several hours a day.
And again, this theme has popped up on more than one occasion. We had a doctor on from Minnesota.
Dr. David Moen.
Yeah, and he talked about the biggest thing he thinks happening right now is people's mental health of just being isolated. He thinks that's the next big calamity that's going to hit us.
The most important thing to a person's health is the community, is being part of a community and being part of a group and injecting yourself back into people's lives and quit being so isolated. And that isolation is causing sickness and disease.
Well, look at my granddaughter there, sitting there looking at that iPhone.
Oh, it's a book. She has a book.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I saw the iPhone earlier.
But we got up to make the bed this morning. She said, oh, I lost my phone. It's right under her pillow. I mean...
She seems a pretty down-to-earth kid, though.
She's beautiful.
Yeah.
And she is down-to-earth. And she's a good girl and very intelligent.
Yeah.
But they can't move without that in their hand.
I'm guilty too, Keena. I'm guilty of that too. If it's not on my hip, I'm in trouble.
And when your kids grow up, what are they going to do? You go out to eat in a restaurant, and what do you see? The family
Everybody's
all
individual.
sitting there like this.
Yeah.
They're not talking about, well, what was your day like today? What did you do?
I'm sending.
And you know it's wrong. I mean, when you sit there, you know it's wrong because I do it, and I know I'm like, God, this is not good.
I'm sending naughty pictures of myself to my wife across the table because I can't say it in front of my kids.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that. How about tonight? No? Again, no? No, how about tonight? No, but you're right. We're very disconnected, and like what happened with that kid, you can consume yourself trying to fill this hole with materialistic things and think, oh, well, Dad's got a great job, Mom's got a great job, and it's not going to fill that hole. And I love the fact that this happened this weekend, and that Shannon told Todd, and they invited me out. And I got to meet you and hang out with you. I love this. And tomorrow I'm coming back for the Sweat Lodge. Well, I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous.
You've mentioned
He
it
won't
3 or
be
4
there.
times now that we're coming
Already?
back for a sweat lodge.
No, he
On
won't
this
be
or
nervous.
outside of the?
No, in this podcast, you
recording?
said we're coming back for a sweat lodge a couple times.
I know I've said that, but
you
I'm
know,
nervous.
Anytime someone wants that door open, when I do a sweat, I open it. I went to a sweat in South Dakota. A woman asked me to be her sponsor to go see a medicine man. She wanted healing. So I went down there with her. And we went in his sweat lodge, and there was 88 boulders in that lodge. And he had his 10-year-old daughter and his 12-year-old daughter running this sweat lodge. And I felt like every pore of my body had a pin in it. It was so hot. And I was really pissed. Them 2 little girls, baby girls, was crying in there to open that door, and he wouldn't open the door. And I come out of that lodge, I slapped him in the face. What are you doing to your children? You're scaring them away from their spirituality. You're scaring them. I said, I'll never go in a sweat like this again. And I didn't either.
So it doesn't have to be that. I mean, obviously, this is a person who thinks that suffering has to take place.
Right. And there are many people that think that. We suffer enough in life. Like, hey, don't think I got through life without suffering.
So you're saying I don't need to be nervous?
No.
Okay.
Because if you can't breathe, or if you need air, or you want to get out, you just say, open the door. And I open the door. Don't I, ladies? I open the door. It's not a torture chamber. We're in there to sweat and detoxify. We're in there to share time with spirit and to renew our spirit and ourself. That's all it is. I mean, there are people who suffer in the sweat lodge. Like, what was that? I was from Canada then. I lived in Canada. And we were people from cold country. We didn't sweat like that. I burned myself. But a lot of that was because I got angry. And I got angry because them 2 little babies were suffering in that lodge. And that big macho man wouldn't open the door. I don't think it's about being macho. I think it's about connecting with spirit and connecting with your community. We have a big community of spiritual people. We've been sweating for 25 years together. And they're like my own flesh and blood. When I journey for a person's spiritual name and I see their spirit, I love them. They're like one of my children. I connect with that spirit. You can't hurt that. You can't hurt those people. Most of these people here, have been with me for all that time. Like Becky's new, and Sadie's new. But when Sadie first come in the sweat, whoa. We went to the effigy mounds, and I always do a pipe when I go into new territory to do a sweat. And I always do a pipe, and I ask the spirits of that area to give me permission to do Ojibwe teachings in your territory. I'm stupid. I need you to come and help me. I need your permission, and I need you to help me, because you have to humble yourself to them, And I am stupid to their teachings. So I need you to come into Sweat Lodge and show me, help me. So that night, when them spirits came in, I seen her beautiful spirit and her son's beautiful spirit come right over to grandfathers and grandmothers, and it connected. And it was like, overwhelming to me. I never seen that before in the sweat lodge. See, we see new things too every time we go in there. And now they're married and they have 2 beautiful children, and they come from that spiritual connection. So what more beautiful can happen? And that's what you get from the sweat lodge. There are unhealthy sweat lodges, but I try to give my best to make it as healthy and uncomplicated as I can.
If somebody
Excuse me.
watches this and they think, because I got on YouTube and I'm thinking, all right, I need to kind of know my stuff here. Let me see where sweat lodge. Everything that came up was early 80s, late 70s. You were saying because it was illegal, right? Mm-hmm. You were with people would be penalized.
It was legal in the 80s. It became legal, I think, in 74, 76. There was a $10,000 fine or 10 years in prison if you're caught doing a ceremony of a sweat lodge.
And is that residual, against Native American kind of government oversight? Is that kind of left over from that? I mean, why would you ever be fined for doing the ceremony? It just sounds so ridiculous at this point.
Now, this could open up a whole can of worms. We could be here for 2 days.
I love cans of worms.
Yeah, but there was residential school. What they were trying to do was get rid of the natives, and they were trying disbursement. My mother was in a disbursement home. When she was 9 months old, she was put in a foster care until she was 18. And then they give her, these wonderful, what do you call those, shock tests? 29. She had 29 shock treatments.
Electroshock therapy?
Yes, sir.
To try to do what? What was the thought up behind that?
The foster parents said she was schizophrenic. Well, trust me, when they got done with her, my mother was schizophrenic. And we took care of our mom. The government tried different ways of causing us to intermix with non-native people to break down our culture.
Sure.
And then there was residential school. They would go right into homes and take the children out. The people couldn't even speak English. And when the children come home at 18 years of age, they had no home to go to. Really, they were foreign to their own family, and their family was foreign to them. Their babies were taken away. Sure, they drank, they did drugs, they did all these things. And, of course, it didn't work. We're still having babies, and we're still here. We're going to continue because we have to. When this earth gets bad, where's the natural people? Who knows how to build a sweat lodge? All these women do. It gets you, I don't know, it's a tender area. And it's all documented. Churches document it. I've worked with residential school survivors for about 15, 20 years. I deal with them today, I deal with them yesterday, I deal with them tomorrow, because they're all over. Even though the last one closed in the 80s, it's still generational.
In the 80s?
Yeah.
That's not that long ago.
No, it's not that long ago. Well, maybe even 90s.
Wow.
I can't remember when the last one closed. There was one in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. It's now Algoma University, and that was a residential school. And I know children, I went and did ceremonies. There's a mass grave there, and that college is terrified with spirits of these children that were murdered there. And there's a mass grave. And we've all tried to settle the spirits down and to release them and to get them to move on. They're still
Just too angry.
angry. There was no need for that. It took away our people's parenting skills, connection to their children. It just devastated our, that's why they drink. That's why they do drugs. That's why they don't go out and try to get a job. And who's going to hire an Indian? In today's times, even. A lot of people don't understand. Am I angry about it? In some sense. But, I figure that people will one of these days open their eyes. And when I went into the Smithsonian Institute, first thing I saw was a white birch canoe. Woodland Indians. Smithsonian Institute. Donated all native artifacts. I looked up and I started to cry, really. I didn't know if I was going to be able to stay there. Because when I looked up, I seen all the spirits and how happy they were. It took me 3 days to go through that because it was too emotional. Our people were kind. They were generous. They were very loving. They didn't believe this earth belonged to them. They knew the earth belonged to Creator. When white man came, we fed them. We taught them what to eat. We taught them how to live in this environment. And we tried to help them. And we're still the same way. And in 100 years from now, we'll still be the same way.
How do you think you get past something like that? How do you get to the point where you're not angry, where you can just kind of let those things go?
Well, you go in the sweat lodge and you see spirit. And that's all that's relevant.
Living in the now, kind of like maybe what you talked about. That's all in the past, and so you move forward.
It is. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not Becky's fault. It's the government. Because the government still keeps feeding it. And it's what, we've created a monster.
I get surprised sometimes. I shouldn't be, because we talk conspiracy sometimes on the podcast. We have people come in and we talk about libertarianism, and we talk about...
No, you let me interview you. What is libertarianism?
Okay. I'll see if I can do Keone justice or Rocky justice.
Yeah.
Libertarianism is a strict holding to the word of the Constitution.
Period.
A strict constitutionalist is another thing for libertarianism, and very small government, and not having somebody there tell me what to do with my life and my property.
They would easily. They would get rid of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. They would get rid of that. The Department of Education. They get rid of that. They'd get rid of the EPA. They'd get rid of all these things that are regulating everything and kind of keeping people down. And the idea is that we would just take care of things on our own. We would get along. We would find ways to get along.
We give too much power to the government, and that's our fault. We give it away.
I think Rocky and Keone should come do a sweat.
They probably would love that.
I love the fact that we're doing this, and I would really like to come visit you. You live in Upper Michigan, right? I would love to go there.
Are you inviting yourself to her house?
Is that all right? Am I inviting myself? Can I invite myself?
I don't know.
That?
You just did. I think you're pretty good.
We're close enough now. Maybe after tomorrow night we'll be close enough, and she'll be like, "Yeah, you can come."
My house is open. I don't own my home. I'm the maintenance person there. I make the house payment. I pay the light bill, pay the phone bill. I keep it clean. I keep a lot of food in there. And people come in and out of my house every day. And they said, "Boy, you have a nice home." That's not my home. I'm the maintenance person here. This is your home. That's how our people think. You come into our space and we treat you like family. how many people come to my place. Well, Tina come up to visit me. What happened, Tina, when you come up to visit me?
Oh, one of the greatest moments of my life. Just beautiful.
We touched. We held our hands up. And I said, tell him to touch him. And we held our hands up, and the northern lights came right down through the mountains around my house, and they touched our palms. And we fell to the ground because we believed that those northern lights are our ancestors in spirit come to visit us. Over my house was an eagle, and northern lights in the shape of an eagle. And because the northern lights move, it looked like the eagle was flying. I mean, we had so many experiences that time these gals come up. We heard the spirit of Lake Superior sing. Opera. I never heard that before in my life. I mean, we were just sitting there drumming, and I could hear this operatic voice coming up out of Lake Superior. Well, you know, people might think we're nuts, but I'll tell you, I'd rather be nuts than live in their world where I have to drive a BMW.
And be sad and depressed.
And be sad and depressed.
And have a ton of prescription pills.
People.
For what?
I'm sorry for that boy. That boy was a good-looking boy, but his parents let that machine babysit him. You know, you got to put that stuff out of your house. You got to not allow it. You know, I have a grandson that has one, and he plays it, but I make him come out of the bedroom. He'll stay in that bedroom all weekend if I don't say, come on, you got to help me make supper. You got to set the table. You got to do this. You know, you just can't leave him stay in that. And I monitor the games he plays. And he's 13 now, and he's 6 foot tall, and is thinking, oh. You know, I would never have that in my house. But they just come on the weekends. You know, I think they're awful.
It's tough too, and you start actually.
But they make a lot of money.
Well, on the social aspect, I mean, I know my kids play games because their friends play the same games, and if I take away certain games and they don't play it with their friends, I mean, we've fought those battles, and it's okay for them to understand. I think that I'm making some choices for you because I think it's important. But there is part of you where I remember being socially outcast because I didn't have certain things that everybody else did. So I mean, I've said this before, it's a crazy balance, but I'm with you. I've had the conversation that the next time something happens with this machine, I'm throwing it out the door in the middle of the street, and I hope it shatters in a million pieces.
Right.
Or I say, go get my hammer. There's a hammer in the drawer in the kitchen. Can you get that for me? Because I'm going to smash this thing into a million pieces right now.
One of the craziest, silliest stories, I've told this before, is we had a Wii. Everybody knows what a Wii is. We had a Wii. My kids fought constantly. They almost acted like they hated each other because they're playing it, and maybe they didn't get a perfect strike bowling with the Wii, and they wanted to throw the controller down. And I thought, guys,
it's a game.
It's a game so that you can be entertained and have fun. Do you look like you're having fun? You don't look like you're having fun. You look like you hate each other because one person's beating the other person. And thankfully, it broke. Now, this is where it gets silly strange. They start using their imagination. They start playing with dolls.
And
they start acting like children again.
That's
now it's going to take an even
word.
stranger turn because I tell my wife, look at our kids. Look how great they are. Things have never been better since that damn Wii broke.
Right.
And she goes, so did you want to get them the Xbox then for this Christmas since they don't? Guess what they got for Christmas?
What?
They got an Xbox for Christmas.
Oh, my God.
And things were going, it's just so weird. We see something, it's so blatantly obvious.
Well, it's like
something's not
it's
good.
a babysitter.
And we shove it in.
It's like eating good. You eat clean for 3 or 4 days, and you feel like you can do anything.
Like
and then all of a sudden you start
cookie.
eating candy bars because it sounds good. You've been eating pretty good for a while. You eat 3 or 4 candy bars and you feel like shit.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing. You know better. You feel better. You're consciously aware of it. But you make choices because Xbox is fun and Snicker bars taste fantastic.
They do
You know?
taste pretty good. It's not my favorite. Butterfinger's my favorite.
I like Butterfingers.
Yeah?
What's your favorite?
Butterfinger.
Oh, it gets stuck in my teeth. I love Butterfingers though.
If somebody wanted to have this experience, because there's a lot of kids out there, there's a lot of grown-ups out there, they live in the cities. Native American culture, whenever they think about, if they ever even think about Native American culture, it only comes up when they think about casinos, possibly, or Good Dancing with Wolves movie. So if somebody wanted to experience something like a sweat lodge, where would you guide them? What would you say to somebody who's just like, I don't know where to go. I don't know how to experience this. I have no connection
Come on
to
to
this.
my house. I'm going to tell you something that kind of ticked me off. I went to the casino the other day with my granddaughter, and she filled out some apps. And I said to the lady, the secretary, I said, you know, what programs works with youth in this community? You know? And she said, oh, we have a few programs. I said, well, I do native ceremonies, you know, I do sweat lodge and stuff, and I find children really respond well with sweat lodge. Oh, she said, we have our own healers here. I said, hey, I'm an elder in this band. This is just my tribe. She said, no, we have our own healers. And I said, well, I can respect that. You know, I wouldn't just, let anyone take my kid into a sweat lodge. But I just thought it was very rude, and I didn't understand that. You know, I didn't want money for these kids to go into a sweat lodge. I just wanted them to come and share the experience. Because I think, like with my grandkids and stuff, you got to start it at home. And then your community. And my community does have healers. They have men healers. What does a man tell me about my life and my body? You know? If I want to see a healer, I want to see a woman. I'm a woman. But that's just a little, kind of ticked me off to be talked to in that tone of voice.
And dismissed for what you're
and
calling
irrelevant.
It, so to speak. Yeah.
You made.
Thank you very
You're
much
so welcome.
for talking to us. I feel like I've learned something. Feel a little bit better.
Well, we'll find out tomorrow after the sweat.
And we'll continue this tomorrow after the sweat. And I'll give you a little update. And then Todd and I will finish this up back at our place. So thank you very much.
welcome.
Again,
Thanks, Ken.
Request.
Appreciate it. We
and
really
everybody
appreciate
else.
it.
And thank you, Shannon Ramsey, for letting us hang out at her place.
I think the best part about the sweat was the preparation. It's almost I mean, without saying dogma, without saying, it's the ritual of preparing. And
Yeah,
so
sure.
Friday was building the lodge,
Yeah.
and then smudging and getting it cleansed out of
what's,
spirits.
and what's smudging? I forget if Keena said this in the interview or not, but what is smudging for people who don't know?
Smudging is just kind of a cleansing of your soul.
Okay, so
and
what is
when they cleanse like the lodge, they're just asking the spirits that are in there to let us have that space for a while, and then we can have it back.
So,
we're going to
how
call
do you smudge? What's a smudge?
Oh, so you get usually sweetgrass or cedar, sage, and you just get it to smoke, and then you walk around and you just kind of like wave that smoke around and pray and
okay. So you burn the sage and you kind of like
wave it,
waft it over people, right? And
again, I equate it to like Catholicism. They walk around with the swinging.
the
incense
swinging
thing,
lanterns and the incense.
No, I don't think it's the same thing. Obviously, it's not the same thing. But preparing for a sweat lodge,
very similar.
Yeah, I mean,
similar
it's
type
very
thing.
ritualistic, and you're kind of preparing yourself mentally. The best part about the sweat lodge was my kids got to go in the first sweat lodge with Shannon
With the women folk.
with their
the men stayed out.
with Shannon, their grandmother. They got to go in with that, and they both really liked it. But while we stood outside and waited for the sweat lodge to be done,
there's no video of this, and I really now Keena.
I have a great picture that we'll have a great picture. I'll make sure is on the podcast of 5 minutes before the biggest torrential thunderstorm downpour I've ever been in.
That I've ever just stood in and stayed out the whole time.
Yeah.
So
as lightning cracked over our heads.
Now I brought the camera down right before the day that Saturday that we were going to do the sweat, and out of respect for Keena and another gentleman, I'm sorry, I forget his name right now. But he came up to us, or Keena did first, and said, when we start the ceremony, there's no filming, out of respect for spirit. I said, okay, all right. That I do not want to offend or put anybody off by what I'm doing. I want
because this podcast is only to
I just want to learn
stuff.
I just want to learn stuff. I want to have an experience, and so I put the camera away, and Todd and I are standing there joking around, and we're like. We looked up, like, oh man, the sky looks pretty crazy. And and the clouds are getting a lot darker. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, is it supposed to rain today? He goes, oh yeah, it's supposed to rain today sometime.
And then I was like, so wouldn't it be crazy if right when we get in the sweat lodge, the sky just opens up and unloads? And as everybody else got into the sweat lodge, first one.
Yeah, what we didn't realize was that there's going to be 2 sweats. So what they did, because there were so many people, what they did was they took the women and children into the first lodge, so that if a child wanted to get out or something, the mom or whoever could get out with that child, and so it was all very good.
Yeah.
So I didn't know there's going to be 2 sweats, and so Todd had said, because we both love the sound, we love kind of being in or experiencing thunderstorms. That's some of my best sleep. I mean, I may wake up because I hear a big thunder crack, but I love thunderstorms.
Oh, me too.
I just love them.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought it would be really cool. Oh, man, as soon as we get into there, as soon as they shut the door to the sweat lodge and everything's completely black, and it just lets loose. That would be so great, wouldn't it? We're kind of laughing about it. And then we find out, there's going to be 2 sweats because there's so many people. And then I looked at Todd and I'm like, we're going to be standing out here in the freaking rain, dude. And that's exactly how it played out. As soon as that first group went into the lodge, it let loose.
It really unloaded on us.
It was a wall of water for how long? 30 minutes?
Oh, maybe at least. Yeah.
I mean,
it was sideways.
It was so bad I had to cover my eyes because I couldn't even look at Todd and talk to him. We were laughing and having a good time. That's kind of the great. If you can have an experience that sucks, and I've said it before, my first sergeant said it's the suck that gives you good stories,
right?
That gives you good bonding experiences. So if you can get through something that really is uncomfortable with a buddy, and you can laugh and make jokes, and you can get each other through it, that makes the best type of stories.
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
And Keena's wonderful granddaughter. About to edit this out.
Darlene,
there you go.
Yeah, Darlene.
Darlene was such a cutie pie right out of high school. Really nice kid, really down to earth.
Yeah.
A teenager through and through, but I thought it had done quite a few sweats, obviously, and she was really fun to talk to and had a really nice perspective on life, I thought. She sat there with us, too, and said she had a cotton shirt on and a cotton dress, and I don't think she ever got dry. Whereas you and I just pulled our shirts off. We had our gym shorts on.
I threw my shirt in the truck real quick, and people might be saying to themselves, what? There's a truck? Why didn't you dummies get in the vehicles? The vehicles quickly got loaded up with drums and other things that we did not want to get wet. There was a drum that was 300 years old.
Yeah. That's pretty astounding.
That's pretty neat.
The grandmother drum that she talked about?
Yeah. Does anybody have anything that's 300 years old? Not a lot of us do. So that was an important thing, and we all kind of ran around and tried to make sure that the sweat lodge didn't fall apart and blow away, because lawn chairs were sailing. it was sailing. And so we were soaked through and through. And, and I didn't think we were going to do the second lodge because all of what Kina refers to as grandfathers, all of the stones got used up for the first lodge, sweat lodge. And Todd, your two boys did the sweat.
Yeah, they had a great time.
The smallest one didn't last the whole time. He had to come out and talk our ears off.
Yep, he couldn't stand. He couldn't sit silently like that for that long.
He gave us a good ear beating.
Yeah, but my oldest had a great time. He's 10. He had a wonderful time.
Yeah, and
he did it with Grandma Shannon too. That makes a big difference.
That is.
It's
if you can have somebody in there that you trust and that is comforting to you, and you know that at any time, if you need to get out, you can get out. No big deal.
There you go.
So it's not like we were smoking peace pipe. It's not like we were doing any crazy hallucinogens.
No,
like that. So
let me ask you. Meditation and prayer. It was pretty simple stuff.
So here's we didn't get to video it, so I'll roughly break it down. If I screw anything up, please correct me. Okay. So there's the lodge, and here's a picture of it. And what I tried to get in this video was there were leaves or branches that came out from the center of the door, and it made a big circle around the fire, and then joined back up with the line that was coming out of the door.
Because everything's circular, everything comes back full circle. That's the idea behind it all.
Okay.
We all do. You know, we're born, we die, and the circle starts again. So I mean, it's in essence that's what most people, and especially Native Americans, it's that circle that represents, you know, growing and learning as you travel through life, kind of thing.
Okay. So right directly across from the door sat the 300-year-old drum. And so what you do is you get in line and you walk towards whoever's going to smudge you. I don't, and again, I'm only guessing. So is it that it's like to get rid of negative emotions or negative spirits or whatever and clean you off,
I think it's just kind of cleanse you, and you kind of inhale the smoke and let it all go, and just kind of open yourself to a new experience, open yourself to praying for others and being gracious and that kind of thing. And
then you take like a handful of tobacco. You take some tobacco. One of your kids just big huge handful of tobacco.
That'll be the youngest. Looks like fun to play with. I'll just take half of everybody's tobacco.
So you take some tobacco, and we walked around the sweat lodge, and
throw a little tobacco in the fire.
You say you think of. I thought of like, what do I want to think about while I'm in the sweat? Is a little prayer.
You're right. It's about kind of getting yourself centered to go in and.
Right. So you put a little tobacco on the fire, you throw a little tobacco on the fire, and then you put the rest of the tobacco from your hand on the drum as an offering.
Yep.
From there, you make your way back around and you go into the lodge. And in the lodge, there's a hole that's dug in the center where all the grandfathers are going to be put.
The red hot rocks from the fire.
Rocks, right.
They call them grandfathers because they have been around here for thousands, if not millions of years.
From the beginning of time.
And so the idea behind it is you're heating them up, and they're releasing that energy at the same time as the rocks break apart, and they release the spirit in the rock because they believe everything has a spirit.
Right.
So,
and they're very patient spirits because since they've been here for millions of years.
Anyway, I like that. I like that idea too. They're patient.
Yeah, and they want to be there.
Think about a spirit in a rock. If you want to think about that for a second, you're just like, it's just sitting there. Oh, moving from place to place, or getting moved by wind or rain, or a river coming through and flooding, or a glacier, and they're just sitting there hanging out,
chilling.
Yeah, I like that. That idea is kind of a neat concept, I think.
So they had some rugs laid down around the inside perimeter of the sweat lodge, and we all just walk in, and we kind of went like in a clockwise rotation, and when you would get in there, you'd kind of wedge yourself in depending on how many people are in there. Try to get comfortable. They try to keep everything as natural as they can, so it's not like they were tearing up the dirt and putting down sand or
Right.
They raked a little bit, and they mowed the grass. And so they tried to make it comfortable as they could, but they didn't harm the environment in doing it.
It would be pointless.
Right. So then we started out with a series of songs, and it seemed like every series it was a 3-song series.
First was the Earth song,
right? And then we had like a bear song and buffalo, eagle song. So there was many different songs, and every 3 songs, Kina would remind us or would tell us, okay, this is what we're thinking about during this time. You're either thinking about yourself, or you're thinking about the trees, you're thinking about the creepy crawlies, you're praying for all of nature, you're praying for your friends and loved ones. There was a moment that there was a time where we're shaking the rattles, and it's pitch black. I can't see my hand in front of my face.
It's hot.
It's hot, steamy. Every time my grandfather was brought in, they would put what on it?
A cedar.
Cedar? It was cedar?
I hope I'm right. You made me just question myself.
I don't know if it was cedar or not, but when you put it on it gave off
Sparked
this
off.
it sparks a little bit, and it burns, and if you've done sweat lodges a lot or previously, you know what that smell is like, but it's very earthy. It's extremely
Smells
earthy.
great.
Smells pretty good, but it can become a little overwhelming to somebody who's a newbie.
Well, I mean, that's why I think if I were to recommend somebody to do a sweat lodge, I would do it with Kina, because her sweat lodges aren't about being super hot and uncomfortable.
Right.
They're about the ceremony. Whereas you and I especially have been in sweat lodges where it was agonizing because it was so hot in there. Now, I got more. No, I shouldn't say that. It was a different experience being under that kind of stress.
Right.
And praying and things like that, but it was just kind of a different thing. But I would say that, I mean, this is my third sweat lodge with Kina, and I like hers because it really is focused on the prayer and the ceremony involved. It's not about, am I getting these people hotter than Hades and stressing the crap out of them, you know?
So should we talk about the pros and cons?
The pros and cons of a sweat lodge?
I mean, the pros and cons of how when we were all done. You know, I looked at it as there's a ton of similarities between the sweat lodge and going to church.
Yeah, and I have quite a few dilemmas because I feel that I know that Kina is a very powerful, connected woman to nature. I believe Shannon Ramsey is a very powerful and very connected to nature, and a very powerful women and people. But I'm too in the world, and I'm too cynical, is what I think I've come down to.
Sure.
Because I believe in them and what they do, and I believe wholly that they believe in what they're doing.
100%. 100%. They're not trying to pull the wool over your eyes.
Yeah, and it's me.
And me.
Yeah, it's me saying, I didn't really see any spirits. I didn't really get. I got the prayer part. I mean, the idea of at that one point we were singing a song and we were to yell out the names of people we wanted healed.
That you care about, and you're like, I want.
It was nice
if there is a spirit, if there is, because I'm not seeing any, but if there is, I would like to think that there is, and if there is, I would love for this person who I really care about, who's having a hard time with whatever, whether it's marriage, a relationship, communication, school, whatever.
Yelling out, that was very therapeutic. I liked yelling out people's names who I was thinking about that I wanted to have heal, whether it was stress or or big humongous things going on in their lives.
Yeah,
I liked that part of it, and so I feel like by being cynical, I feel like I take away something from even the legitimacy that I felt in some of the things that I did in the sweat lodge. So I have this brutal juxtaposition inside myself of not allowing myself to believe. Do you know what I mean? It's being so cynical and so based in facts and science.
If I don't see it, I don't believe it.
Right. But Kina does a great job of as you just heard, talking in the interview about we're missing the magic. We don't allow ourselves to see the magic anymore. And so we don't see the wonder in the world. And if you don't see the wonder and the magic in the world, you become a cynical, dried up husk of a person. You don't really, you're not seeing things with fresh eyes all the time. You're not taking the opportunity to sit back and see things from different points of view and taking them for what they are. And I'm so aware of that, of how I want to change. Now, am I ever just going to be wholeheartedly believe in something? I don't know, but I can definitely take her point of view of missing the magic in the world and trying harder to believe that way, because I think obviously it's extremely healthy. you know, and good for us to remember that the world is just a wondrous, wondrous place. And we can so easily be on RT and Facebook and get lost in the world and get shitty, you know, to put it simply. And think about how beautiful last night was. You know, the thunderstorm was crazy, but it was amazing. And I felt literally cleansed from the inside out after the sweat lodge and before, because I got poured on, you know. But how often do you stand in a thunderstorm? And how
often are you uncomfortable?
Right. And how often do you try new things? You know, I could easily see somebody sitting back going, whew, where's the commune? These guys all, where's their leader? You know, where's their commune leader? Where's the communal kitchen that we're all going to go and sit half naked in or something? You know, you can see people being cynical, hippie kind of way of looking at things, but it wasn't like that. These are just normal people who all came together and said, we want to pray together this way. We believe this way of thinking. They're everyday people. You know?
Yeah, you know what and
when Keena was worried about that too in the interview, she was worried about her coming across as being goofy and crazy, you know. And I was like, well, people are going to learn to have to take you with a grain of salt and understand who you are. You don't think this way. This is who you are. It's not like a belief system that you kind of like that you do. It's part of who you are.
That would be.
Should I say who you are one more time?
Yeah. Why don't you say that?
Sorry.
What I enjoyed, or here's an aspect. This is one way that I look at it. Okay, is if you go to church, if you're a Christian and you go to church. Rocky has said this before. Have you read the book all the way through? You're trying to live up to this ideal of this book.
Right.
Whereas last night, I was watching people get together because they wanted to be together. They weren't necessarily they didn't open a book. They didn't read a recipe. You know, this is exactly how it has to be done. And if we don't do it right, you know, it was nothing like that.
Yeah, it was super casual and relaxed.
Very casual, very relaxed, very good-natured, very humbling. So in that regard, I really, really dug it. I mean, I enjoyed the whole experience.
Mm-hmm. I did too. I had a great time. I just enjoy listening to Keena because she's really entertaining as a person to talk to. Mm-hmm. She has great stories. She's a funny lady, you know. But at the same time, I do very much appreciate her spirituality. You know, as cynical as I may be, I really enjoy being around people who really believe in something. You know, I think it's a wonderful thing. I don't know why I can't get there sometimes. You know, but I love being around people who believe so strongly in something like that. But and that's not just, I mean, now I don't like hanging around, you know, crazy born-again Christians who are trying to convert me so I don't go to hell. I don't enjoy necessarily being around somebody like that who believes. That's
a huge difference. No judgment.
Oh, there you go.
There's kind of the big difference, the huge difference between these two parties. There's a lot of similarities with the incense or the smudging, whether it's the ritualistic aspect of it. We're gonna bring the grandfathers in, and we're gonna say Sema. Oh no, it was Sema every time you saw like a light or something. So
saw spirits.
Saw spirits. So there was a lot of people saying Sema, and I said Sema. Okay, so I might have misunderstood while I was in the sweat lodge. I thought Keena said every time you see a light or a spark or something like that, say this word, Sema.
And I thought the same thing, so I don't think you're
So I had this rattle. We all had these rattles, and they were kick-ass. They were pretty cool. You're just shaking. I was just shaking the fuck out of this rattle, man.
Stop. Don't say
I was going crazy with it, so much so that my hand got tired. I had to switch hands a couple times. There was one time where I was like double fisting it.
Oh my God. Really? Because I was just sitting there kind of just trying to keep rhythm.
No, I was like, fuck. You were sitting right next to me. You said you saw the cool part about these rattles were, I don't know what's in the rattles, but they would spark.
There's nothing in the rattles. That's the whole point.
Dude, there's something in the rattles.
They're agates.
Okay.
But agates don't spark against each other.
I am not a genealogist.
Genealogist?
A geologist. A genealogist.
In a bottle?
I have no idea about genies. Can we just say that?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what's in these. I don't know what's in the rattles, but I'm shaking the hell out of it, and it's sparking, and it got hot. those rattles, you feel the end of it. By the end of, like, we took a break and I was holding on to the rattle. I was like, woo.
Yeah, mine was hot too.
Warm, man. So every time I saw a spark, I would say, "Sema, Sema," and again, it was completely dark. I don't know who's to the left and who's to the right of me. I knew Todd was to the right of me
because we can't be separated.
Yeah, we can't. We're
not even
connected at the hip.
Not even a ceremony.
So, but there was a lot of other people in there, and it was like Sema, 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 and I was like, Sema.
And it was, you know what I got from that, because a lot of people started saying those things and they're getting louder and they were getting excited, you know, and so then I really started looking, you know, but I mean that it was. Again, it was the part of me. Again, it was the cynical part of me that when we got done, I felt great. I thought it was a wonderful ceremony. I had a wonderful time with a lot of people around us who were just like, "Whoa, that was so powerful," you know. And again, it goes back to where I think I'm missing something. I think I'm not allowing myself to see a piece of this because I'm blinded to it because I'm not willing.
Well,
to,
you and I
mean?
were you and I kind of were hoodwinked
because I'm not going to diminish the fact that these people had incredible experiences.
They believe it, they feel it, they enjoy it.
Yeah, I just feel like I'm missing that part of it for whatever reason.
You and I were part of a church, and
a wonderful church.
It was. All
right. I thought for a while. It was wonderful.
That's the whole point. You know, the sermon was said and the people acted a certain way, but when it came down to it, something would happen, something did happen, and a door was opened and you got to look behind the curtain.
And it blew up.
And it was just like, this is phony baloney bullshit.
Yeah.
The church that we were at. That's what I thought. I mean, that's the way it made me feel. And then, of course, the comeback is, we're all just human. We're all just sinners. We're just fighting that every day, and we're trying to live by these sermons. And you know what? It was total horseshit. It was total horseshit.
Well, they weren't living like they were taught. They weren't living what they preached. It's that simple,
right?
But they were really hammering the shit out of us and about our questions and our belief systems, and we were challenging ourselves, and we were challenging them, going, well, we just don't understand this part of this. Can you help us out? Oh, you're just babies in the faith. You don't have it all locked in yet. It's all about faith. You know, that's how it works.
Yeah.
And then you see the opposite from behavior, and you're just like, wait a second. We're trying to learn. We're looking to you to teach us, and now we find out you're full of shit.
I bet a lot
That's
of
really
people are like
tough.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
and I think that judgment piece is the biggest part when it comes to like Hina and the different situations. Hers was completely non-judgmental. Come into the sweat lodge with what you have and offer what you can. Yeah. And if you don't do anything, you don't do anything. Just be part of what we're doing here.
You know what I really enjoyed? One of the things I really super enjoyed about her was this idea that if somebody comes to her house or if somebody's a part of her sweat that she's leading, she's just the caretaker, and she doesn't own anything. And you're coming in, and now you're a part of her family. Just boom. That's just no
if you go to her house, it's full of food. You can come in anytime you want and have something to eat.
I mean, she doesn't know me. She doesn't know me. I could be a complete jerk, you know. And some people are going to say I'm a complete jerk, and that's fine. But she had no reason to be instantly awesome with us, and she was. And so I was very grateful, very honored to have, one, been able to talk to her.
Yeah, it was great. Two,
to be able to be a part of the Sweat Lodge and experience that and listen to all her views of spirituality.
And I wanted to do it again. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. Maybe we can do without the torrential downpour. I almost feel like if we don't have a torrential downpour, maybe we're not getting the full effect.
The best part of it, though, is we didn't have any bugs. After that, it was almost worth the torrential downpour to sit there. Torrential downpour,
because it was a little buggy before we started. It was a little bit buggy.
When you breathe, you only ate like 4 or 5 at a time of gnats. It was that buggy.
What's that thing? That new product or whatever?
I'm not sure. That spray. Yeah, we'll have to promote that at some point.
God, that stuff's pretty good.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And
but I mean that torrential downpour just took care of the insects, and the rest of the night before and after that sweat lodge, it was beautiful.
Bug free.
It was beautiful. Yeah, it was really beautiful outside. So
when we were it was either right before we went into the sweat lodge or right afterwards. I had said to you, it was 10 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking around, and we're not like in the wilderness, but we're next to a lake that's in the woods.
River.
I'm sorry, next to the river.
Wapsipinicon River.
Wapsipinicon. Yep. And I was very humbled to the fact that I'm looking at this fire, trying to warm up from being rained on, and I look around, and it's just complete and utter darkness, and it really reminded me how vulnerable we are, how vulnerable I am, and how we don't get that sense in our world because we just flip on a light. You know, we just turn on our headlights. We're good to go down the street, or we have street lamps, to walk around the cities. Mm-hmm. But when you're in nature, you are so vulnerable.
Right. And now take that to a religious aspect or a spiritual aspect. And so you're in the same spot you were yesterday, but you're a born-again Christian, and all you believe in is Jesus Christ, that he'll find a way for you to do something. Right? And so maybe you head off in a direction and you stumble along and you make it, right? Or are you part of a spirituality where you believe in Mother Earth and the creepy crawlies and the four-leggeds and the standing trees, and so then you walk off and you have a much better idea of what you're walking into because you believe in what you're walking on has a purpose. You believe in the trees that you walk around and interact with on your path as having spirits and that are an important, intricate part of the way the world works. It's a whole other way of thinking about something.
That's another huge difference between the two religions, the two spiritualistic religions that we've kind of looked at, which is the Christianity and the Native American Ojibwe belief system. Whereas you're a caretaker of the earth, and everything is important. The creepy crawlies, the trees, everything. You're a part of this. You have to work in equilibrium with everything else. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Christianity, we rule this earth.
And God gave it to us to use.
This earth is our bitch.
And not everybody thinks that. Some people feel that God said, you're the caretakers of this earth, so you need to take care of it. There's different people in different
right.
parts of
and then there's a huge group. When we were going through the whole Y2K, some people aren't going to really remember Y2K, but this was at the height of Todd and I's church going time. And when Y2K was about to hit, the overwhelming theme in our Bible study group was, we're just going to abuse the shit out of this earth. We don't care. Jesus is coming back. We are the rulers of this earth. Global warming? No. We're going to do whatever we need to do because we are the most important thing on this planet. And I loved it when Keena said, how can we, you'll have already seen that in the interview where she talks about, how can we say we own this planet when
I don't own my house. I'm a caretaker of my house.
Yeah.
So
I don't own caretakers of this planet.
I don't own this property. It's not mine.
Very unique. Very
that's why
different.
it was so hard for Native Americans when people came over from across the ocean. Well, we'll teach you how to live. We'll teach you how to hunt, survive, how to make it in this climate, as she talked about.
Yeah.
And what's ours is yours. And they said, "Oh, sweet. You don't want it? Great. We'll take it.
It's ours."
Yeah. You're right. It's a very different way of looking at it. But yeah, the interview was the best part. And I thought it was kind of funny that she was a little nervous to do it because I think she's awesome. And I think she's a great speaker too. But it's like anything. You put a camera on somebody, it could be a little nervous.
It reminds me it reminds me all the time how this has become very natural and it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Doing it, and to bring somebody into the mix who's never been on camera or talked into a microphone, spoken into a microphone, how nervous they may get.
Yeah. Well, no matter who they are. You take Nick Rosine, big studly man,
Yeah.
was nervous as hell his first time. She was nervous, and she doesn't do very many of those. We're pretty lucky to have that interview because she doesn't do that very often. So
yeah. And so we are also going to be looking at this Wednesday. We're going to have who? Jeff on, right? Mm-hmm. He is a promoter of comedians, and he kind of runs. He schedules the comedians around for Penguins, and I'm sure we'll have a more in-depth conversation with him this Wednesday. He'll be in on the Primal Scream podcast, and we'll talk to him all about. I bet he's got some crazy stories.
He says he has some great comedic stories. I can't wait to hear.
Can you imagine that? I mean, what must it take for somebody to be the manager of men?
Ugh.
With all the foibles and
Ugh.
all the crazy little things that each individual person is so completely different, and they need certain things or they don't need certain things, or you might want to tell someone, hey, you might want to shower. I mean, you have to manage all of those things. So it's going to be really interesting to talk to him about that this Wednesday.
Only blue M&Ms in my dressing room.
All right, can you buy just blue M&M bags?
No, you have to pick them out. Or you can buy bags from M&M, the company itself. You can buy bags with like the little things written on them,
Okay.
personalize them. So I'm sure you can buy a bag of blue M&Ms at this point. But back in the day, like people had them in their riders.
And that's why you have interns.
That's why you have interns. They're picking out all the brown M&Ms. There's no brown M&Ms in there. That's silly.
So,
well, hey,
yeah.
it was a great podcast. We really enjoyed Keena and her friends and her family.
Wonderful
and her
experience.
granddaughter was wonderful.
Thanks to everybody who made us feel welcome.
Yeah,
I really
it was
appreciate that.
fantastic. And good food, too. God, you guys can kick your asses off. It's fantastic.
Did you just say kick your asses off or cook your asses off?
I meant cook if I said kick. You can cook your asses off.
Even cold, because I rated that stuff cold, and it was still good.
It was fantastic. So
anyway, I enjoyed it. Thank you very much to everybody. I'm Matt,
I am Todd.
and we'll see you later.
Adios.
Good night.
Red and I had to have a shower and a short nap.
He's the one. What kind of rocks do you pick up for the sweat lodge?
Usually granite if I can find it.
Yeah, something hard, you know.
And I
What's that
brought
limestone?
Limestone don't fly.
Some same,
It'll just bust to pieces.
tobacco.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was told to bring gifts, and tobacco is one, but I didn't know what is the significance of the tobacco.
Tobacco is the first gift Creator give us as medicine. You know, and the old ones tell me Jesus lived among us. You know, Jesus from the time 13 to 33 lived with a lot of different people. And when he lived with us, he gave us same cedar, sweetgrass, and tobacco was the first medicine he gave us. So if we go pick cedar for the sweat
Kind of
lodge,
gadget, but I never buy it.
we take tobacco and we ask that tree, the cedar tree, if we can borrow some of her dress for the sweat lodge for healing people or for bathing them in the cedar. The cedar is powerful medicine for clearing negative energy. We offer tobacco. If we pick up a stone, this is flint off the ground, that we need that stone for protection, we put tobacco there. When we go pick berries, when we cut the trees for the lodges, we put tobacco down and we ask those trees for permission to cut them for healing practices, to help our people heal and be strong. So tobacco is everything to us. Why do you think all this bullshit has come about tobacco? You know, making it so expensive we can't afford it. You know, it's too bad, but you know, they're cutting their own because we can use oak leaves in the winter because oak don't shed their leaves, and we can make tobacco, kinnick and stuff out of that. So we don't even have to go to the store and buy it, but we like this. It's good stuff. If you want to do something of anything of importance, and if you take tobacco and you ask that tree, those trees right now are listening to everything we're talking about. And they retain that. You know, and people think of them as a tree. Well, you must have seen Shannon's documentary. These are our brothers, you know. We are a small part of Earth. Oh, I didn't know that was sitting there. We're only a small part.
What, that?
And we're the most irrelevant part.
You're not recording yet, are you? Yeah. Oh, you are recording right now.
It's supposed to be
red.
inconspicuous.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
Well, it's black